Story 5. The Peculiar Case of Roman Bathhouse Hygiene. Section 1. The grandeur and grime entering the Roman baths. Imagine, if you will, the vibrant, living tapestry of a Roman city at its bustling peak, perhaps imperial Rome itself, or a thriving provincial hub like Pompeii or Bath in Britannia. Sometime in the 2nd century CE, the air would be thick with the incessant symphony of urban life, the rhythmic clatter of wooden cartwheels on well-worn cobblestones, the distant, murmuring roar of crowds gathering in the forum, the insistent shouts of street vendors hawking their wares, and the pervasive, earthy aroma of human activity. Yet, rising above this daily din, a distinct, almost palpable hum would consistently permeate the atmosphere, a harmonious chorus of splashing water, echoing voices, the rhythmic thud of wrestling bodies, and the gentle sigh of rising steam. This, unequivocally, was the omnipresent sound of the Roman bathhouse, not merely a utilitarian place for physical cleansing, but a vibrant, pulsating heart of communal life, an institution so utterly central to Roman identity that its sheer scale, engineering marvel, and astonishing ubiquity are almost unimaginable to the modern mind. For the Romans, the act of bathing was rarely a private, solitary affair. It was, by its very nature, a public spectacle, an indispensable daily ritual, and a profound social necessity. And its uniquely peculiar approach to hygiene offers an unparalleled window into their complex worldview. You might, with a modern sensibility, envision a bathhouse as a simple, perhaps even sterile, utilitarian structure, a series of tiled rooms with functional pools. The reality, however, was ineffably grander, far more intricate, and astonishingly sophisticated. From the colossal, awe-inspiring imperial complexes like the baths of Caracalla or the even larger baths of Diocletian in Rome, capable of accommodating thousands of bathers simultaneously within their monumental halls, to the smaller, more intimate neighborhood balnea that dotted every Roman town. These structures were absolute marvels of architectural ingenuity and hydraulic engineering. They stood as resounding testaments to Roman prowess, demanding immense quantities of fresh, clean water supplied ceaselessly by sprawling aqueduct systems, requiring ingeniously designed heating mechanisms, primarily the revolutionary hypocaust system, which ingeniously circulated hot air beneath elevated floors and through hollow wall cavities, and necessitating meticulous, long-term planning for their construction and continuous operation. Their very creation involved armies of skilled laborers, vast quantities of quarried stone, kiln-fired bricks, and durable concrete, the legendary opus caementitium, alongside a profound, empirical understanding of water dynamics, thermal physics, and public health. The monumental expenditure and sheer human effort invested in these public works, often funded by benevolent emperors or immensely wealthy private benefactors seeking to curry public favor, underscores, more than any historical text, the profound, almost sacred, importance Romans placed on this daily ritual. These buildings were, in essence, colossal machines for living, designed to enhance the physical and social well-being of the populace, a testament to an imperial power that understood the value of public amenities. Let us then gently transport ourselves to such a magnificent establishment, perhaps a medium-sized public bath in a bustling Roman town, sometime in the middle of the 2nd century CE. As you approach, the sounds would grow louder, more distinct, the distant splash of water, the low hum of voices carried on the warm, humid air. The entrance itself would likely be grand, adorned with impressive statuary, relief carvings, and perhaps a welcoming inscription. Stepping inside, the air would immediately feel distinctly different, warmer, markedly more humid, thick with a complex blend of human bodies, various fragrant oils, and the subtle, earthy, pervasive aroma of damp stone. It was a scent unlike any modern public space, a unique olfactory signature of Roman communal life, Your first stop would be the bustling apoditerium, the changing room. This was emphatically not a private cubicle or a secluded locker room. Rather, it was a large, often cavernous hall, typically lined with polished marble, its walls punctuated by numerous niches or shelves, carved directly into the stone or wood. Here, bathers, irrespective of their social standing, would unhesitatingly deposit their tunics, cloaks, and any personal belongings. Imagine the lively, almost chaotic scene. Dozens, perhaps even hundreds, of men or women, as larger bathhouses often had completely separate sections or designated hours to accommodate different genders, stripping off their relatively simple attire, engaging in lively chatter, sharing jokes, perhaps haggling with a slave or a designated attendant to guard their meager possessions. The atmosphere would be undeniably boisterous and communal, a clear prelude to the shared experience that lay ahead. The boring yet profoundly revealing detail here is the strikingly public nature of undressing and changing, a stark contrast to modern sensibilities regarding personal space and modesty. This open display suggests a cultural comfort with the human body and a different conception of privacy than our own. However, this openness also presented a pervasive problem: theft. Without secure individual lockers, the apoditerium was a notorious hotbed for opportunistic thieves. Inscriptions and curses found on lead tablets often invoked gods to punish those who stole clothes or valuables from the baths, highlighting a constant underlying anxiety about personal security. Even within this public haven, slaves might be tasked with guarding belongings, but their vigilance was not always absolute. From the often bustling apoditerium, many bathers would then proceed directly to the palestra, an expansive open-air exercise yard, often surrounded by colonnades providing shade. This was where the essential physical activity, an integral and non-negotiable part of the Roman bathing routine, took place. Here, you would observe a dynamic tableau of physical exertion: muscular men wrestling in grappling holds, their bodies glistening with initial sweat. Others engaged in various ball games, from the rough-and-tumble harpastum, a violent precursor to rugby, to more gentle games with smaller balls. Some might be lifting rudimentary weights or simply engaging in vigorous calisthenics. The ground beneath their bare feet would be either dusty earth or fine sand, absorbing the impact of their movements. The air would be filled with the sounds of their exertion: grunts of effort, shouts of encouragement or triumph, the rhythmic slap of bodies colliding, and the heavy, accelerated breathing of active participants. This pre-bath exercise was not merely for recreation. It was fundamentally believed to open the skin's pores, induce a healthy, copious sweat, and actively prepare the body for the subsequent thermal treatments. For the Romans, sweat was not something to be avoided, nor was it viewed with modern distaste. It was a natural, healthy bodily function, a visible sign of vitality, and a crucial means of expelling perceived impurities from within the body. The goal was to work up a good, honest sweat, to truly flush the system before the deeper cleansing began. After their invigorating exertions in the palestra, bathers would often move to the eleothesium, or oiling room. This was a dedicated chamber where they would be coated with various oils, typically olive oil, the ubiquitous lubricant and cleanser of the Roman world, often infused with delicate perfumes or therapeutic herbs. This anointing was not merely for lubrication during exercise, nor was it simply cosmetic. The oil served a paramount purpose in the Roman concept of hygiene. It was believed to effectively cleanse the skin by trapping dirt, dead skin cells, and the copious sweat generated during exercise. Imagine the intimate sensation: a slave or a paid attendant meticulously rubbing your entire body with rich, smooth, fragrant oil, ensuring every surface was coated, preparing your skin for the subsequent intense heat and the ultimate scraping process. The air in this room would be thick and heavy with the pervasive, slightly sweet scent of olive oil, perhaps mingled with the intoxicating aroma of rose, lavender, myrrh, or frankincense, depending on the bather's wealth and choice of infused oils. This ritual of oiling, so different from our soap and water routine, was a core element of their cleansing preparation. Now, with bodies thoroughly warmed by exercise and glistening with the applied oil, the true thermal journey through the Roman bathhouse began. The systematic progression through rooms of increasing heat was not arbitrary. It was a carefully designed physiological process. The first thermal stop for most bathers was the tepidarum, the warm room. This was an intermediate, transitional space, specifically engineered to prepare the body for the more intense heat that lay ahead. It was heated by the ingenious hypocaust system, ensuring a comfortable, ambient temperature that was neither cold nor excessively hot, often maintained at around 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, 86 to 95 Fahrenheit. The air here would be comfortably humid, gently enveloping the skin and subtly initiating the process of perspiration, easing the body into the thermal experience. This room was invariably adorned with elegant marble benches or recesses, offering a perfect place for bathers to relax, converse quietly, catch up on local gossip, or even engage in light business discussions or intellectual debates. It was a pivotal social hub, a place where the gentle murmur of voices, the soft rustle of movement, and the quiet hum of human interaction created a soothing atmosphere, a social liminal space before the intense heat. The diffused light filtering through high windows and the luxurious materials would have contributed to a sense of serene tranquility, a brief respite before the main event. From the pleasant, comforting warmth of the tepidarum, the bather would then enter the caldarium, the hot room, the undisputed heart of the Roman bathing experience and the peak of its thermal journey. This was an intensely hot and remarkably humid chamber, often filled with thick, almost suffocating steam that clung to the air and coated the skin. The hypocaust system was at its most powerful here, channeling maximum hot air beneath the raised floor and through hollow wall tiles, heating the entire space to a high, almost oppressive temperature, often reaching temperatures that would feel unbearable to us today, perhaps 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, 104–122 Fahrenheit, with near 100% humidity. In the center of the caldarium, or within alcoves along its walls, would often be a large, circular hot water basin, the labrum, or even a hot plunge bath, solium. Imagine the immediate, profound sensation of stepping into this room, the sudden rush of enveloping heat, the instant burst of sweat that erupted from every pore, the air heavy with moisture, making each breath feel thick and warm. It was designed to induce copious, almost torrential perspiration, to truly cook the dirt, dead skin cells, and impurities out of the skin, loosening them with the combined effect of oil and extreme heat. The sound here would be the pervasive, soft hiss of steam escaping from hidden vents, the occasional loud splash as someone plunged into the hot basin, and the heavy, rhythmic breathing of bathers, some perhaps groaning softly in either discomfort or profound relaxation. This was where the serious cleaning truly began, though notably, still without any form of soap as we understand it. The intense heat was also believed to be therapeutic, relaxing muscles, improving circulation, and relieving aches and pains. A precursor to modern heat therapy, the Roman concept of hygiene was, it is crucial to understand, fundamentally different from our modern understanding, which is heavily influenced by the scientific bedrock of germ theory. They possessed no knowledge of bacteria, viruses, or microscopic pathogens. Their understanding of health and disease was largely rooted in miasma theory, the belief that bad air or foul odors caused illness, and the humoral theory, the ancient Greek medical system that posited illness resulted from an imbalance of 4 bodily fluids: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. Thus, for the Romans, cleanliness was about expelling perceived impurities or bad humors from the body through sweat, maintaining bodily balance and presenting a visually clean and oiled appearance. The pervasive use of oils was not just for cleansing but also for protecting and conditioning the skin, giving it a healthy sheen. The entire sensory experience of the Roman bath was overwhelming, immersive, and deeply communal. The constant, varying warmth, the oscillating degrees of humidity from the tepid to the scalding, the pervasive, unique scent of human bodies, sweat, and various oils, the echoing sounds of splashing, animated conversations, and physical exertion. It was a total environmental immersion. It was a place where all senses were constantly engaged, a far cry from the relatively sterile private showers or baths of today. The very air you breathed, thick and moist, was considered an integral part of the cleansing and therapeutic process. Designed to facilitate the body's natural processes of purification and relaxation, the social aspect of the Roman baths cannot be overstated. It was as vital as the physical cleansing itself. These institutions were remarkably democratic spaces, accessible to almost everyone, from the wealthiest senator or equestrian to the humblest craftsman, or even slaves, though slaves often attended their masters or had specific hours for their own use. The entrance fee was typically very low, often a mere quadrans, the smallest Roman coin, sometimes even entirely free, thanks to the immense generosity of imperial largesse or private benefaction from wealthy citizens seeking to gain favor and prestige. This remarkable accessibility meant that people from virtually all walks of life mingled within the same grand halls, albeit with certain unspoken social boundaries still in place. The baths were a place for conducting informal business deals, engaging in political networking, participating in philosophical discussions, catching up on the latest city gossip, or simply enjoying leisure. Children learned to swim in the cooler pools, elders relaxed and sought relief from their ailments, and friends met daily to share stories. The baths were, in essence, a dynamic microcosm of Roman society, a place where social barriers were, for a few hours each day, somewhat relaxed, fostering a unique sense of community and shared experience. This communal nature, while profoundly fostering social cohesion and urban vitality, also presents a fascinating paradox when viewed through a modern lens of hygiene. Accustomed as we are to the meticulous segregation of personal cleanliness, as you stand amidst the steamy atmosphere of the caldarium, feeling sweat pouring freely from your body, the air thick with moisture, and the hushed sounds of other bathers, you might justly begin to wonder, how exactly did the Romans achieve a state of cleanliness in this rather unique environment? If there was no soap, no vigorous scrubbing with abrasive sponges or brushes, no effervescent bubbles or detergents as we know them, how was the accumulated oil, sweat, and dirt truly removed from the skin? The journey through the heat and steam, the anointing with oil, these were merely the preparatory steps. The true act of cleansing, the core of Roman hygiene, lay in a peculiar, yet remarkably ubiquitous, instrument and a method that might indeed make a modern bather recoil, a fascinating testament to a lost world of cleanliness rituals. What was this mysterious tool, shaped for a purpose long forgotten in our world of foaming gels and sanitizers? And how did its precise, repetitive use, alongside the human hand and the sheer volume of water, define the very essence of Roman cleanliness, a concept so profoundly alien to our own? The answers reside in the next stage of their daily ablutions, a ritual both effective by their standards and curiously unhygienic by ours. Section 2. Scrapers, Sweat, and Socializing. The cleaning rituals, having now navigated the architectural grandeur and the vibrant, multi-sensory symphony of the Roman bathhouse, having passed through the bustling apoditerium, the energetic palestra, the aromatic aleothesium, and the progressively humid chambers of the tepidarum and the intensely hot caldarium, we arrive at the very heart of the Roman bathing ritual, the actual physical process of getting clean. This stage, so utterly crucial to their unique understanding of hygiene, was remarkably, even astonishingly, devoid of what we today consider essential cleansing agents like foaming soap, abrasive detergents, or even a simple washcloth. Instead, the entire process relied upon a fascinating, almost intuitive, interplay of induced sweat, applied oil, and a peculiar curved metal tool known universally as the strigil. Imagine yourself now, standing amidst the steamy, humid, almost oppressive embrace of the caldarium. The air is thick, warm, and heavy, its moisture clinging to every surface, punctuated by the soft, rhythmic sounds of dripping water and the deep, often labored, breathing of other bathers, whose hushed conversations seem muffled by the pervasive steam. Your body, thoroughly warmed by the preceding stages, glistens with a uniform layer of applied olive oil, now thoroughly mixed with copious, steady streams of purifying sweat that trickles down your skin. Your skin feels flushed, your muscles are deeply relaxed by the pervasive, penetrating heat, and your pores, by firmly held Roman belief, are wide open, ready to expel every last impurity. This, for the Romans, was the quintessential moment for true, profound physical cleansing. The primary and most ubiquitous instrument of Roman personal hygiene was the strigil, Latin strigilis. Envision a slender, elegantly curved blade, meticulously crafted and typically made from durable bronze, robust iron, or for the exceptionally wealthy, gleaming silver. Its form was distinctive, a blunt, U-shaped spoon-like implement, seamlessly attached to a comfortable, often contoured handle. This was emphatically not a sharp razor or a cutting edge. Its subtle curve and carefully blunted edge were specifically designed to scrape, to glide along the contours of the human body, not to incise or abrade. The Romans wielded this tool to meticulously scrape away the accumulated, sticky layer of oil, sweat, dirt, and loosened dead skin cells that clung stubbornly to the body after the preceding thermal treatment. It was an absolutely essential personal item, so integral to daily life that virtually every Roman citizen, regardless of status, carried one. It was typically found in a small practical bathing kit, often alongside their anointing oil flask, ampulla, and a simple, small sponge for application or wiping. The act of strigiling itself could be performed by the bather directly, with varying degrees of dexterity and effectiveness, or far more commonly, it was carried out by a specialized slave or a skilled bathhouse attendant, especially for those notoriously hard-to-reach areas like the upper back and shoulders. Picture the scene unfolding around you. A bather extends an arm, perhaps leans back slightly into the attendant's steady hand, and with practiced, almost ritualistic precision, the slave carefully, methodically, draws the curved edge of the strigil down their limb, from shoulder to wrist. As the strigil moved, a distinct, almost satisfying, scrape-scrape sound would emanate, accompanied by the gentle friction of the blade against skin. With each deliberate stroke, it would gather the emulsified mixture of oil, sweat, and grime into a thick, elongated grayish-white roll, sometimes described as a worm of dirt, which would then be neatly wiped away onto a dedicated cloth, or simply allowed to fall to the wet, tiled floor. The visual effect was immediate and pronounced, offering a clear, tangible sign of cleansing. The sensation for the bather would have been remarkably invigorating, a feeling of immediate relief as the heated, clammy, often sticky layer was physically peeled away, revealing fresh, soft, albeit still subtly oily, skin beneath. This precise process would be repeated over the entire body, meticulously covering every limb, the torso, and the back, ensuring a thorough cleansing from head to toe. It was a precise, almost surgical, and highly practiced movement, a testament to the attendant's extensive training and skill. The profound Roman belief in the cleansing and therapeutic power of sweat formed the fundamental bedrock of their hygiene philosophy. They possessed an intuitive, if not scientifically articulated, understanding that perspiration was the body's natural way of expelling waste products and regulating core temperature. In the intensely hot, exquisitely humid environment of the caldarium, they sought to induce copious, even torrential, sweating, firmly believing it literally washed away internal impurities and toxins through the skin's surface. The applied oil, far from being solely a lubricant for massage, though massage was indeed a common complementary service, acted as a crucial binding agent. Unlike water, oil is nonpolar, and thus it effectively adheres to and emulsifies with nonpolar substances like the fatty components of skin oils, dirt, and dead skin cells. This binding action facilitated the efficient removal of grime by the strigil. For them, the oil was their unique soap, an external agent that effectively helped to lift and collect impurities without dissolving them into a foamy lather. Their concept of true cleanliness, therefore, was centered around physical elimination and expulsion rather than chemical dissolution. The precise combination of intense heat to thoroughly open pores, oil to bind impurities, and the strigil to physically remove them, formed the unshakable cornerstone of their daily hygiene regimen. Yet the Roman bathhouse was, by its very design and pervasive function, far more than just a place for thermal cleansing. It was the quintessential Roman social institution, a vast, multifunctional complex where serious business, leisurely pursuits, and diligent personal care seamlessly intertwined. After the rigorous and satisfying scraping, bathers might move back to the slightly cooler, more relaxed ambiance of the tepidarium for a final period of quiet relaxation and communal socializing. Or they might proceed directly to the invigorating frigidarium, the cold room. This was typically a large, often open-air pool of bracingly cold water, or a series of smaller individual cold plunge baths. The deliberate, often dramatic, transition from the extreme, humid heat of the caldarium to the bracing, shocking cold of the frigidarium was a vital and non-negotiable part of the Roman bathing ritual. It was firmly believed to close the pores that had been opened by the heat, to invigorate the entire body, and crucially, to prevent chilling after the hot bath. Imagine the sharp gasp, the immediate, exhilarating shock, and the profound, revitalizing rush as one plunged from steamy warmth into intensely icy cold water, often followed by involuntary shivers, and then a profound sense of refreshed invigoration. This sharp thermal contrast was considered not just invigorating, but highly beneficial for overall health, improving circulation and muscle tone. The sounds here would be sharper, more pronounced, loud splashes, sudden gasps, and perhaps bursts of relieved, almost triumphant laughter from those who had braved the icy depths. Throughout this entire, multi-stage process, socializing was not just permitted. It was constant, pervasive, and actively encouraged. The baths were, remarkably, democratic spaces, accessible to almost all Roman citizens for a minimal fee, typically a mere quadrans, the smallest Roman coin, or sometimes even entirely free, thanks to the immense generosity of imperial largesse or the civic-minded endowments from wealthy private citizens seeking to gain public favor and lasting prestige. This remarkable accessibility meant that people from virtually all walks of life mingled within the same grand halls, albeit with certain unspoken social boundaries and codes of conduct still subtly in place. A powerful senator might find himself rubbing shoulders, quite literally, in the caldarium with a freedman. A shrewd merchant might engage in casual chatter with a battle-hardened soldier, and a contemplative philosopher might find himself locked in a lively, impromptu debate with a celebrated poet. Imagine the rich cacophony of voices and sounds, political gossip being quietly exchanged in the apodicterium, philosophical arguments passionately unfolding in the more relaxed tepidarium, the shouts of encouragement or exasperation from a competitive ball game in the palestra, and the occasional startled yelp or triumphant splash from the frigid waters of the frigidarium. The baths actively facilitated networking, client meetings, casual conversations that built community bonds, and even public displays of wealth or intellectual prowess. It was a common sight to find individuals or groups reading aloud, listening to public recitations of poetry or oratory, engaging in spirited games of chance like dice or knucklebones, or simply indulging in simple pleasures, like light snacks and cool drinks from the various vendors often present within the complex. Beyond the core bathing ritual, the larger Roman bathhouses, particularly the imperial complexes, offered a truly wide array of ancillary services and amenities, creating self-contained microcities of leisure and well-being. Professional masseurs, often highly skilled slaves or freedmen specializing in therapeutic touch, were readily available to soothe tired muscles after strenuous exercise and scraping, using a variety of oils and techniques. Hair pluckers, alipolari, were on hand, offering their specialized, often painful, services to remove unwanted body hair, a practice considered important for aesthetics and a sign of refinement in Roman society. One might hear the quiet, almost painful, plucking sound, followed by the bather's brief wince, an intimate detail of Roman beauty standards. There were also barbers for haircuts and shaves, creating a small, intimate hum of shears and the soft scrape of bronze razors. Larger complexes even boasted fully stocked libraries, offering quiet, contemplative spaces for reading and study, a stark contrast to the lively main halls. Adjacent lecture halls hosted public discussions, philosophical debates, and rhetorical performances, providing intellectual nourishment alongside physical cleansing. Even tranquil gardens and outdoor courtyards were meticulously integrated into the architectural design, offering serene spaces for quiet contemplation or leisurely strolls, adding a breath of fresh air and natural beauty to the concrete and marble structures. For the Romans, a visit to the baths was a truly holistic, multifaceted experience encompassing physical exercise, diligent personal hygiene, vibrant social interaction, and rich intellectual stimulation, a daily commitment that often lasted for several hours of a late afternoon. The profoundly communal nature of the baths, however, presents a significant and unavoidable paradox when viewed through a modern understanding of hygiene, particularly in light of our knowledge of germ theory. Here were hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals, often from diverse socio-economic backgrounds, congregating in warm, humid, and enclosed spaces for extended periods. They shared plunge pools, though water was constantly flowing, often used common exercise equipment, though these might be wiped down, and were scraped by attendants using strigils that were likely simply wiped clean between uses, rather than rigorously sterilized. The potential for the transmission of infectious diseases, from common skin infections like ringworm or impetigo and debilitating eye infections like trachoma, to more serious waterborne illnesses if the aqueduct supply was compromised, though this was rare, or even respiratory ailments from close contact in steamy, crowded conditions was undeniably high. Yet, the Romans, without any scientific knowledge of microorganisms, firmly perceived their baths as quintessential places of health, healing, and purification. They understood, intuitively, that cleanliness was important for overall well-being, even if their understanding of how it worked was different. Their monumental aqueduct systems continuously supplied immense volumes of fresh water, often drawn from pristine mountain springs, ensuring a constant influx and flow through the pools. The baths incorporated sophisticated drainage systems to efficiently carry away wastewater, preventing stagnation and ensuring a continuous cycle of renewal for the pools. This constant circulation of fresh water, even if not fully sterilizing, by modern standards, would have significantly mitigated the buildup of pathogens compared to stagnant sources. Furthermore, the intense heat of the caldarium might have provided some degree of thermal disinfection, though certainly not enough to kill all microbes. Their deeply held belief in the benefits of profuse sweat, combined with the physical removal of dirt by the strigil, likely led to a practical level of physical cleanliness that, while crude by our metrics, was effective enough to contribute positively to their overall public health and longevity, especially when compared to populations living without such regular access to full body washing. The feeling of being clean, of having expelled impurities, was perhaps as psychologically vital as any microbial effect. The role of slaves and bathhouse attendants was absolutely crucial, indeed indispensable to the seamless, often luxurious, operation of these vast public facilities. They were the silent, tireless machinery that made the grand enterprise of Roman bathing possible. They meticulously maintained the roaring fires of the hypocaust system, ensuring consistent heat levels across various rooms. They managed the complex plumbing, ensuring the constant flow of fresh water into pools and the efficient drainage of waste. They diligently applied oils and performed the intricate art of strigeling and massages. They were responsible for the continuous cleaning and maintenance of the facilities, often scrubbing floors and draining pools. And they were tasked with guarding bathers' belongings, a continuous battle against theft. Their constant, often unseen labor, the quiet shuffling of their bare feet, the methodical sounds of their work, the crackle of fire, the splash of water, the scrape of strigils underpinned the entire grand ritual of Roman public bathing, a testament to the immense human effort behind every seemingly effortless Roman luxury. After hours spent in this unique, multi-sensory environment, cleansed by the combined action of oil, sweat, and strigil, muscles relaxed by heat and massage, and minds perhaps sharpened by conversation and debate, the bather would emerge from the bracing plunge of the frigidarium, feeling refreshed, invigorated, and profoundly clean by Roman standards. They would redress in the apodaterium and step back out into the vibrant Roman street, rejoining the urban clamor, their skin soft, their bodies invigorated, and their social connections affirmed. The very concept of a quick, private shower for functional cleanliness was utterly alien to their worldview. For the Romans, cleanliness was a shared, sensory, and protracted journey, a testament to their deep ingrained commitment to public well-being, widespread leisure, and robust social cohesion. But as we leave this steamy, social world, a few lingering questions remain. How effective truly were these fascinating, yet peculiar methods from a modern scientific perspective? Did the Roman bath, in all its peculiar grandeur and communal spirit, actually achieve genuine hygiene as we understand it, or merely a culturally accepted form of it? What became of this remarkable foundational institution as the vast Roman Empire slowly began its long, complex decline? And what enduring legacy did this paradox of ancient purity leave for the centuries that followed, shaping our own evolving understanding of cleanliness, health, and the very concept of a bath? Section 3. The enduring legacy and the paradox of purity as we finally emerge from the steamy, social labyrinth of the Roman bathhouse, our bodies ostensibly cleansed by oil and strigil, and our minds perhaps buzzing with the echoes of ancient chatter, we are left to ponder a fascinating paradox. The sheer grandeur, the engineering brilliance, and the profound social significance of these institutions stand in stark contrast to their peculiar methods of hygiene, which by modern scientific standards seem almost counterintuitive, even potentially unhygienic. This concluding section will delve into the reasons behind the eventual decline of these magnificent structures, compare Roman hygiene with the practices of subsequent eras, explore the enduring paradox of their purity, and reflect on the subtle legacy they have left on our own understanding of cleanliness and public well-being. The decline of the Grand Roman Bathhouse, much like the decline of the Western Roman Empire itself, was not a singular sudden collapse, but a protracted, multifaceted process, stretching over several centuries and driven by a complex interplay of economic, political, and socio-cultural shifts. Firstly, economic factors played a profound and ultimately devastating role. The vast imperial bath complexes, with their thousands of users, demanded immense quantities of resources. They required an uninterrupted, massive flow of fresh water, which meant continuous maintenance of the elaborate aqueduct systems that stretched for miles across the landscape. They also consumed prodigious amounts of fuel, primarily wood, to feed the hungry furnaces of the hypocaust system, which had to burn constantly, day and night, to heat the water and the very fabric of the buildings. As the Roman economy began its slow, painful contraction, particularly from the 3rd century CE onwards, the funds necessary for such colossal infrastructure projects and their perpetual maintenance dwindled. Fewer resources meant aqueducts fell into disrepair, wood became scarcer and more expensive, and the public purse could no longer subsidize the operations to keep entry fees low or free. The sheer scale of these buildings, once a testament to Roman power, became an unbearable burden. Diminishing tax revenues, inflation, and a general economic contraction across the empire meant that the public services, once the pride of Roman cities, became luxury items increasingly difficult to sustain. Secondly, political instability and external pressures contributed significantly. The constant threat of barbarian invasions, particularly in the later centuries of the Western Empire, led to sieges, destruction, and abandonment of cities and the vital infrastructure that supported them. Aqueducts, being vulnerable and exposed, were prime targets for invaders seeking to weaken cities by cutting off their water supply. Once damaged, the immense task of repairing these conduits, requiring coordinated labor and vast resources, became increasingly unfeasible amidst a fragmented and struggling central government. Without water, the sprawling bath complexes simply could not function. Furthermore, the focus of dwindling state resources shifted from public leisure and amenities to military defense and basic survival, a stark reflection of a changing empire's priorities. The very concept of public works in the grand Roman style began to fade. Thirdly, and perhaps most subtly yet powerfully, socio-cultural shifts, particularly the ascendance of Christianity, profoundly influenced the decline of the baths. While early Christianity did not universally condemn bathing, the overt public nudity, the mixed-gender bathing, which, though often segregated by time or section, still occurred and was condemned by moralists, and the general atmosphere of leisurely pleasure associated with the baths began to conflict with emerging Christian values. The emphasis in early Christian thought often shifted towards asceticism, spiritual purity, and modesty, viewing the body as a vessel for the soul, to be kept clean, but not overtly indulged or displayed. Prominent church fathers voiced strong disapproval of the perceived immorality and sensual temptations of the baths. As Christian populations grew and exerted greater influence, the cultural impetus for supporting such lavish public, communal institutions waned. The focus shifted from public communal cleansing to more private, often symbolic, washing. This confluence of factors meant that by the 5th and 6th centuries, many of the grand Roman baths in the Western Empire had fallen into disuse, disrepair, or were repurposed. Their vast halls became quarries for building materials, their pipes rusted, and their hypocausts grew cold, leaving behind silent, monumental ruins as stark reminders of a bygone era of public life. The decline of Roman bathing marked a significant divergence in hygienic practices in Europe compared to the Roman zenith. The medieval period, roughly 5th to 10th centuries, is often, and somewhat unfairly, characterized as the dirty Middle Ages. While it's true that the grand daily public bathing of the Romans largely ceased in Western Europe, the reality was more nuanced. Public baths did exist, especially in cities, and often in conjunction with inns or medical facilities, but they were far fewer, smaller, and less integrated into daily life. Bathing was more sporadic, often tied to specific religious festivals like before Easter or special occasions. Rivers and private wooden tubs served for washing. The emphasis often shifted to dry cleaning, frequent changes of linen, which was believed to draw dirt and sweat away from the skin, and the liberal use of perfumes to mask body odor. The widespread belief in humoral theory persisted, and there was a growing suspicion among some medical authorities that hot water opened the pores, making the body more susceptible to disease. The Church's influence, promoting modesty and spiritual rather than physical indulgence, also played a role in discouraging large-scale communal bathing. This trend continued into the early modern period, roughly 16th to 18th centuries, particularly in Western Europe. While bathing was not entirely abandoned, it became a less frequent and largely private affair for the wealthy, who might have portable tubs. The fear of bad air, miasma, and the opening of pores persisted, leading to a focus on surface cleanliness. Perfumes, elaborate wigs, which could be removed for cleaning, and copious powders, like rice powder, were used to create an illusion of cleanliness and mask odors. Fine linens were still changed frequently. Body washing was often reduced to sponge baths with limited water, or simply wiping down. This period, ironically, might be considered dirtier than the Roman era by modern standards, not due to lack of effort, but due to a different understanding of how to achieve cleanliness. Asterisk. The seismic shift in hygiene occurred in the 19th century, driven by the twin forces of the Industrial Revolution and, crucially, the scientific revolution that led to the development of germ theory. As cities exploded in population during industrialization, overcrowding, poor sanitation, and rampant epidemics, cholera, typhoid, tuberculosis forced a re-evaluation of public health. The groundbreaking work of scientists like Louis Pasteur, Joseph Lister, and Robert Koch fundamentally changed humanity's understanding of disease. The invisible world of microorganisms was revealed, demonstrating that disease was not caused by miasmas or humoral imbalances, but by tiny living pathogens. This was a massive paradigm shift. Cleanliness was no longer about expelling bad humors or merely looking clean. It was about eliminating or preventing the spread of these unseen killers. This scientific understanding led to the return of water as the primary agent of hygiene, but now with a new purpose: sterilization and removal of microbes. Public health movements championed clean water supplies, sewage systems, and significantly, the widespread use of soap. Soap, now understood to effectively emulsify fats and lift microbes, became the indispensable tool for true cleanliness. The modern bathroom, with its running water, individual washing facilities, and emphasis on germ eradication, is a direct descendant of this 19th century revolution. This brings us back to the paradox of Roman purity. The Romans invested vast resources into their baths, believing them to be essential for health and cleanliness. They created complex systems for constant water flow and heat, and their method of cleansing with oil and strigil did physically remove accumulated dirt and dead skin. By their own standards, and given their lack of germ theory, they were clean. Their skin was smooth, oiled, and free of visible grime. The constant refreshing of water in the pools also limited the accumulation of gross pollutants. However, from a modern microbiological perspective, the communal nature of their bathing in warm, wet environments, the shared pools, and the likely non-sterilized strigils in attendants' hands would have presented significant opportunities for the transmission of various skin, eye, and respiratory infections. Diseases like trachoma, a bacterial eye infection, various fungal skin conditions, ringworm, athlete's foot, and potentially even respiratory infections in crowded, humid air could have spread. The Romans felt clean, but they were not sterile. Their concept of pollution was more aligned with visible dirt, foul odors, or perhaps moral spiritual impurities, rather than invisible biological contaminants. The psychological benefits of their bathing ritual, the relaxation, the social connection, the sense of rejuvenation were undoubtedly immense, irrespective of microbial counts. Despite their apparent, unhygienic practices by modern standards, the Roman baths left an enduring and profound legacy that extends far beyond the ruins that dot the European landscape. Firstly, their architectural and engineering prowess set a precedent for public works. The principles of the hypocaust system, the sophisticated water management, and the design of large communal spaces for leisure and well-being influenced later bath cultures, from the intricate Turkish hammams and robust Russian banyas to the serene Japanese onsen, all of which share the core Roman concept of heat, water, and social bathing, albeit with their own unique cultural expressions. The very idea of a public facility dedicated to health and recreation, often free or very cheap, remains a powerful concept in city planning and public health to this day. Modern public swimming pools, health clubs, and spas owe a direct conceptual debt to the Roman model. Secondly, the Roman baths solidified the idea of public health as a civic responsibility. Emperors and magistrates understood that providing access to baths contributed to the well-being and contentment of the populace. This commitment to public amenities for the general good, even if imperfectly understood in terms of disease transmission, laid a conceptual foundation for later public health initiatives. The emphasis on physical exercise as a precursor to bathing, too, highlights an early, intuitive understanding of the benefits of combining activity with cleansing. Finally, and perhaps most subtly, the baths left a legacy of social rituals and sensory experiences. The human need for communal spaces for relaxation, for escape from the stresses of daily life, is timeless. The modern spa day, the shared experience of a sauna or steam room, the simple joy of a long hot bath, all resonate with the echoes of Roman traditions. The desire for pleasant aromas, perfumed oils then, scented soaps now, the comforting warmth of water, the sensation of physically feeling clean. These are universal human desires that the Romans addressed with astonishing creativity and scale. Their approach reminds us that cleanliness is not just a scientific absolute, but also a cultural construct, evolving with our knowledge and our needs. As the sun sets on this exploration of Roman bathhouse hygiene, we are left with a deeper appreciation for the complex interplay of human ingenuity, cultural values, and scientific understanding across the vast sweep of history. The grand, grime-laden, and profoundly social world of the Roman bath, once the pulsating heart of an empire, now stands as a monument to a peculiar concept of purity. A concept that, despite its differences from our own, was entirely effective for the Romans, allowing them to live, thrive, and build one of the most remarkable civilizations the world has ever known. It is a tranquil thought that even in the seemingly mundane act of washing lies a history rich with lessons and quiet contemplation.